Oh, so good to
Hey,
see
Steve,
you.
what's up?
Good to see you, man.
You too, man.
So yeah, let's for folks who don't know you, um, I hear a little bit about you, but definitely one of the things I want to talk to you about is all of your well, food, obviously, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of your travels and adventures involving food cultures. Um,
Okay. That's fine.
that'll be my request.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot. Let's just start. So I was saying I'm a retired chef, about 35 years now, and I've lived and worked and traveled and visited and cooked in 24 countries and all seven continents. And I've been to Africa a couple of times, and West Africa is the only place I've been back to twice. I liked it so much the first time. So, and it's influenced a lot of my cooking and cooking for a couple months in Sri Lanka and informed my cooking a lot. And
Yeah,
just I was just very lucky to be in a place where I could really cook what I wanted to, and I got lucky to design a place. I was 24, and
wow.
Caribbean food. And then from there, one of my patrons um, was going on a tour of the Caribbean to sell a yacht that he had refurbished. So we went all over the West Indies and the Yucatan Peninsula and Central America, and we would drop anchor for 2 or 3 weeks or 2 or 3 months, and I had to cook the food there, and what ingredients were there, so I would get to know the folks and go inland a bit and start meeting people and then knocking on doors and say, look, I want to teach me how to cook that, please.
Yeah,
I'll cut your onions, I'll sweep your floor, I'll wash your dishes, I don't care.
yeah.
Just teach me how to do that. So it was a pretty intense hands-on learning process. And
Yeah, that's a hell of an adventure right there. Just
yeah.
so and you
Just
would
ask questions.
yeah. This was like people whose food you tried, like the restaurant, like you go to a little cantina or something, or a restaurant, or you
Oh
just
no, I learned
people.
very quickly to stay away from the tourist ban on the coast, because
Uh
there's
huh.
always the giant ships coming in and dumping off 1,000 people or 6,000 people for the day, and there's
Yeah.
the giant tourist section. I learned to stay away from that, and I would go in 6 or 7 blocks or a couple miles inland and get to know the locals and then just walk around and smell, right? Basically,
Yeah.
what's that? And just knock on the door and say, hey, that's what I do, and I need to cook. I need to feed 9 people 3 times a day on this boat, my crew, and show me how to do it cheaply, basically,
Uh huh.
you know. But also, just local food, and I learned a lot,
That's awesome.
you know.
How did that's?
Um,
I'm
Go
just
ahead.
I'm just picturing. I'd have to drink some whiskey before going up knocking on strangers. People were pretty receptive to that when you would let.
Yeah, they were. Well, the biggest thing, it happens time and time again, and typically, once you leave this country, all of our political and social things are gone,
Yeah.
and men don't cook in the kitchen. That's a woman's job.
Huh.
So to have a man in the kitchen was hilarious to begin with.
Really?
For me to offer sweeping the floor was just, oh, the man in the kitchen, and which opened a lot of doors.
Yeah.
A little humility went a long way, but and
Yeah.
uh, and the places we'd stay or 2 or 3 months at a time, they would see me coming down. They would just come here, come here, come here, and it was nice to be recognized as well as really respect their culture
Hmm.
and say this is great, and the process of how you chop this vegetable or how you steam this rice or all these little bits and pieces that made their food really different that we miss
Yeah.
out on here,
Yeah.
so yeah, I learned a lot of methodology and how to prepare the food and why certain steps were taken
Mm.
to make a dish happen, and how to layer your flavors in the processes. Yeah,
Yeah. There's
yeah,
a
it was a
lot.
lot.
Yeah. Not just the art of cooking, but the culture and the
Yeah.
everything that goes, the traditions. Yeah.
Yep. Also, the seasons, how things come in and out of season. What gets used, what doesn't. The availability is different. Here we can buy anything, anytime.
Yeah.
There it's like, okay, this fish comes in this time, or this thing blooms here, or this thing fruits here, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's when you eat it. And next thing you get prepared for is the next thing.
Yeah.
To be ready for that. and also getting used to eating the same thing over and over and over again. So, you know,
how to keep that interesting.
Yeah. And really supports a lot of research that's been going on for a long time. The longest lived cultures are the people who eat the same thing their entire lives. You know, so
that sounds a little boring.
Well, see, that's the thing right there. We eat for fun.
Yeah.
Their body gets nutrition because it's used to, and it's seasonal. It's not saying it's exactly the same thing all the time.
Right.
It changes through the seasons.
Couldn't be if you wanted.
Yeah. So your body gets full use of all its nutrients because it's ready for it. You know. So there's a 12-year study, I think, in England where they traded the diets between a set of nurses in England and a set of nurses in the Philippines. Completely changed it back and forth. And they found out that they lost nutritional value by half because their body didn't recognize what the food was. The ingredients. Wow. I don't know what it is.
Well, that's a score one for intestinal flora for the internal.
Yeah. So you realize, and I try to advise people to start your basic diet with what's common for your genetics, your familial genetics, you know, and then build around that and have fun occasionally. But when you're here, we have a different meal, all 3 meals, 21 times a week, and most of it we poop away, you know. It's fun and entertaining because we don't get the full value of its nutrition. Because
I'm a little shocked to hear you say this, actually.
Why is that?
Because you've traveled all over the world cooking and learning to cook food and tasting food and all that.
Yeah, but I saw it play out in all those places. So,
you
know, like in West Africa and Cape Mara, I had a breakfast with a 112-year-old woman.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Been eating fish and rice in Senegal. And she had a baguette with a peanut chocolate spread and tea for breakfast for her entire life.
Wow.
And then they have fish and rice, it's a national dish. They eat that every day.
Yeah.
You know, and they change it up every once in a while when something comes in, you know. That's it. And they have lean body mass, they have low cholesterol, they have no gut problems whatsoever. You know, 1993 I had a colectomy performed on me. So they took out 15 centimeters of my colon. Excuse me. And the doctor I had at the time was also doing like a month of Doctors Without Borders in Africa. You know.
Well, I think your mic cut out.
No, can you hear it?
I can hear you, but barely.
All right, let's see what's going on.
That actually sounds better.
Did that help at all?
Well,
nope.
It was, but
I'm trying because something just fell here, and
now
I'm wondering if
it sounds like you're back.
Okay, that help?
That helps.
Okay. I got too many gadgets with my gadgets on top of my gadgets.
You're saying your doctor was doing Doctors Without Borders?
Yeah, and volunteering a month out of his year over in Africa. And he says, you know, he was also one of my patrons at the restaurant I worked at in Chapel Hill. And so I never had to wait. I just went right into his office and I had 3 months to get ready for my surgery. And he says, you know, in Africa, they don't have these kind of colon problems, colon health issues, because the diet's so rich in fibers, no processed foods.
Right.
And they eat well and they poop well. So, and that's part of our problem here. We eat for convenience and fun. Yeah. And so much of our food is prepared ahead of time. Well, as far as like prefabricated food.
Yeah. No, that's a huge problem. I mean, most people's diets. You have to. I was just talking about this with a client today, just about how much people don't accidentally learn to cook in America. I mean, if you're lucky and you have somebody older, you get to sit and do it with them. But if you don't have that at home, you're not going to get it at school. And if you choose to take classes in cooking, which is great, more power to you, but you're not really learning to cook to live. You're learning for flavor,
Yeah.
And that's different than what the most of the world for most of history has been like, how do we make this thing stretch? What's poor people food?
Yeah.
How do we do it cheap and super nutritious and hopefully flavorful and very, very different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. And that's like one of the number one things I hear from people when they talk. And I do a lot of consulting online,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, well, I don't have time to cook, I don't have time to learn. And I said, well, my argument is, okay, you get air, water, shelter, food.
Mm-hmm.
You need these things to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And we really put food down on convenience, and we've outsourced almost all of our responsibility around food to somebody else, either to a company that prepares it for us or a grocery store that makes it for us. And actually, it's not that you don't have time; it's you actually have your entire life to learn how to cook. I mean, for the moment that you can put a pot of beans on the stove, for me, which is 7 years old, I was learning another application. I'll learn how to do this, a little thing here, a little thing here, and for most anybody in a year, you can come up with enough rudimentary processes to cook most of your food yourself. It's not that difficult. It's just creating the lexicon around food, understanding what things are called, how to identify what works with what, and then build from there. It's just a variation on a theme,
Yeah.
Who's that comedian that said, I read the entire dictionary when I was younger, and everything after that was just a remix. That's kind of like how if you learn the basic rudiments of cooking, you're just remixing different shapes and flavors.
Yeah, exactly. The original Chinese character for alchemy is fundamentally the character for cooking, and it's that idea. Cooking was the first. Mm-hmm. Normally water goes down, fire goes up, but if you put water on top of fire, now you're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That idea, just breaking things into little parts.
Mm-hmm.
All parts of combining them. Yeah.
And there's a definite language around it. So, and it's like you have a movement studio, or you have movement, right? Mm-hmm. You teach movement, and you have specific names for specific moves and muscles and all that stuff. So you're mastering that,
right?
And the same thing with food. But food is so huge, we get presented such a huge variety of things. It can be daunting,
Right. Sure.
So I think that. So go back to, what's your genetic makeup? What's your family history?
My mother's family, Italian, with a fair amount of North African through Italy to Albania. My father's family, Russian, possibly Ukrainian, probably Jewish. We're not somewhere over in the cold. We're not really sure. They came to America, new life, new name, new religion. They didn't talk about the old country.
Nope. You froze up.
So I grew up mostly around my mother's family, and so she was Italian. Her mom was Italian, and her mom, both of them incredible cooks. My mom's an incredible cook. My grandmother's an even more incredible cook. And it cracks me up because she was very old world about it, and a lot of what I see, a lot of the new things that in the science of nutrition, a lot of studies that are coming out with nutrition just back up stuff that she told me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's all the same common sense stuff you're talking.
What would be a basic dish that you would prepare?
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I mean, most of the time it wasn't fancy. It was like, grilled meat and vegetables, like grilling fish, fresh vegetables, lightly cooked, little olive oil, salt and pepper, some spices.
Yep. And then science backs it up saying, okay, great vegetables. This is going to piss off the raw people, but, you need to break it down a little bit, and then that's just a little bit of grilling. And then next thing you know, it's easy to digest. You get more nutritional release from that,
Yeah.
And then you probably, you have such a wide variety of foods coming into your genes. You can probably go pretty broad with what your choices are,
I like different foods, but I do with some than others.
Yeah. And, but for the long run, you should have like the ones that are from your family,
Yeah.
and then build on that. And then I had a friend I had to cook for, and she can only have 25 ingredients
Hmm.
to work through her issues. So I'd be
Wow.
really clever in coming up with different things and using only these 25 ingredients for years.
Yeah.
So you learn how to do that, and you can make it interesting still.
Yeah, it's an artistic challenge.
Yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
once you learn those things and start building it up, next thing I got recipe for 200 recipes for potato now.
Yeah. Right.
And it's a potato.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up the genealogy stuff because I mean, in my household, there was me and Daniela, and then our kids when they all have various mixes of different genetics.
Mhm.
Because I had three, she had two. We already bunched it up. Um, but so it's not even preference. I mean, the kids have different preferences, but each of them have different foods that are like their power foods that make them good. Like not just emotionally, but like physically, and even with Daniela, like, she this morning she was drinking a beet. She's got she has a mix, but her diet is very much from kind of her northern um, European, uh, a lot of root vegetables. Like she's drinking beet juice, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, this is like medicine for me." Took one taste. It's like that's all I need for the week. That's
Yeah.
I need that stuff.
Yeah. Pickle beets, man. I'm set.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Yeah, it's funny too, just how I think some of it is age, just getting more sensitive about things. I mean, I'm more aware. I remember when I was a kid and I really tried to pay attention to, if I did good one day, what did I eat? And it was like, God, trying to remember what I had for lunch the day before was an eternity. Like I couldn't even figure out, I knew what I ate 15 minutes ago. I had no way to tell something I ate 2 days ago. Are you crazy? I can't keep track of that stuff. And as older, just because you see the patterns repeat, and you're like, oh, when I eat this, I don't feel good. When I eat this, I feel better.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of food combining. There was a restaurant in Asheville I used to work at, which will remain unnamed, but this person was famous for putting like 17 things in a quesadilla, and you would eat it, and it was like, oh my God, that was tasty up here, but who?
Yeah.
Your whole eating, like, whoa, people would say, "Is that your stomach?" And, yes, it's my stomach. I can hear it across the room. I know you can. So you learn maybe these things didn't really go together that well.
Yeah.
It has its own breakdown rate. And some things offer up a lot of gas.
Yeah. The breakdown rate is interesting. I don't know if you've looked into this. I had there was some interesting research. I mean, there's research in all different kinds of directions, that say different things. But there was been some interesting research about just the food layering, just the specific order. If you eat fruits, they're going to digest really quickly, and if you eat them first and then you eat, something, the meats and fats later, it's not so much a problem if you give 15 minutes to digest. But if you eat the fats first and then you eat a peach on top, that peach is going to ferment before it's digested.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd because you have dessert at the end of your meal,
I know. That's the kicker. It's the kicker.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt. I mean, dessert on top of a full belly can be asking for trouble.
I got both my dogs in their rooms. Maybe some extraneous sounds here.
It's all right. Our internet's getting a little wonky. It cuts out for a second, but
yeah, I saw that.
We'll just do what we can do.
Okay. There we go. Damn technology.
It's funny. You got me thinking of my grandma, and it's funny too because even just as far as ancestral foods in a way, and even cultural foods, like it's hard to keep that stuff up. In America, things they tend to get a little Disneyfied. It's like whatever the thing was becomes a little bit cartoonish of it. And I'm an American, so I can say that. But you know,
Say it again.
just how things can get a little cartoonish over time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my grandma, we'd go up, you know, we'd spend time with her, you know, in the summers and on holidays and stuff, and she'd get me all excited. We're gonna make a pizza. We're gonna make a pizza, and I'd be like, we're gonna have pizza. I'd be so excited. We're gonna have pizza, and then a few hours later, she'd bring out just the most beautifully simple focaccia bread with, like, you know, a little oil and some salt and maybe some anchovies, or like just a little flavor here and a little
Yeah.
and I would just sink.
Oh no.
Be like, that's not a pizza. It's bread. What do you think? She'd be all proud. It was really, really good focaccia bread.
Yeah.
But it was not pizza in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, but then it's like, and there are parts of Italy and in Sicily where the pizza looks a little bit more like what we think of in the States, but with her people, it wasn't like that at all, you know? And,
No.
you know,
I see that a lot, and we have a new place here in town just opened up, and they're from Tremonti, Italy.
mm-hmm.
You know, and they're really Italian. They moved their stones from Italy.
Nice.
For wood fire. And we've got really traditional pizza. It's like just a smear, a little bit of tomato sauce, and just a smattering of stuff. It's all about the crust, you know.
Yeah.
And but the tradition here in this town, there's a place downtown that's been there for 40 years, and you'll get it, and the cheese is like that thick on top, you
Nice.
know, and it's
Nice.
just like a giant wad of cheese and some like soft sponge bread underneath it. And to me, that was never pizza. But if you like cheese, you know, that's sort of like that's the way this culture grew up. That was pizza, you know.
Right.
Just a ton of stuff, you know. So much stuff that the crust couldn't even hold. It was like flopping over, and it's like why even have crust at this point, you know?
Right.
So, and I worked at a place in Chapel Hill that made the little 5-ounce doughs, pizzettes, and put them in the oven. The oven was like 600, 700 degrees, wood fired, and that was done in like maybe 2 minutes, 90 seconds tops.
Dang.
But it's like a cracker crust, you know.
Uh-huh.
And that was a smattering of stuff, and that was like a perfect blend between textures and flavors, and just enough fat on top to keep it interesting, you know. But they were so satisfying that this little 10-inch pizza, that's all you needed, man. You know.
Yeah.
It was really satisfying, you know.
Yeah.
So you can eat for just, you know, some sensation, just throwing stuff down, or your body can eat something and say, wow, that's all I need, you know, because it really worked. It was balanced, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing when it all synchronizes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we made one thing I missed the most, absolutely the most about Asheville and Madison is the wine berries.
Wine berries
that come out. Yes. Have you had wine berries?
Wine berries are one of my all-time favorite foods
of the world.
Tell me, I have some hardcore ecologist friends that tell me they're invasive, and I'm like, no, if nothing that good is a problem.
Yeah. Well, invasive is a pretty broad term. I mean, sometimes it just means it's not native.
Nope.
So
yeah. But no, they're so good. They're so good.
So they were selling, or somebody was had access to raw milk, and we made wineberry ice cream one time.
Ooh. Ooh.
And I had a bowl of that for dinner, and my body just said, "Okay, you're done."
Yeah.
Just go sit over there for a while and go.
Yeah.
But my body was just like rolling in nutrition, and like it was satisfying, like from head to toe.
Right.
It's like one of the best things I've ever eaten in my entire life, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't need anything else, you know.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yes,
well, and you wouldn't want to corrupt the palate that lingered. Oh. Oh, that sounds so good. Every time I talk to you, you do this. You make me hungry. You get me. Like.
Sorry.
That's all right. So I forgive you.
That's right. I'm gonna fuck you up real good, Steve.
I'm curious. You said I don't know, was Senegal in particular, or just West Africa and all over that? I mean, what was it that you fell in love with so hard you had to go back twice?
Geez, that's a big question. Well, the country that has like a motto. It's called Taranga, and Taranga means hospitality.
Uh-huh.
And they pride themselves with receiving people into their homes and taking care of them.
Yeah.
I stayed for 3 months the first time.
Wow.
And a family, and they said, no, don't worry about it. We have a family that comes from Italy. They stay for 6 months.
Wow.
And here is like, man, if you're pushing 3 days in America, it's like, well, I gotta watch fantasy.
Totally. I mean, they would just welcome you.
You need to leave. So, and also, it's still, even though, are you there? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Even though Dakar is very modern, it still carries the ancient traditions of, and I don't like using those words, but it still carries the notions of a tribal attitude where everybody matters. And if one person's sick, then the tribe is sick. So you pick up, they take care of the weakest link until the link is strong again. And it's like homeless people get pulled into the porch at night, put it in the paper bags for the people who need food.
Hold on. Can you repeat that? I think we broke up. You were saying the homeless people get taken care of.
Yeah, there's a porch in most people's houses. They have a stone, like a cinder block homes with a porch receiving area, like with a gate. And if you're out in the streets at night, they don't allow that. That's an embarrassment to their culture. So they bring people in, at least into the porch, and give them a place to sleep the night in safety, and they're fed.
Wow.
And then they can go out and they can go busk the next day. And the restaurants put their leftover food in paper bags out there at night so people can come up and get their food, that need food. Nobody goes hungry when it's possible, And also just the complete absence of this hyper macho existence. It's like everybody has their place. And I think I enjoy monotheistic cultures in a sense that they've already worked it out. Mm-hmm. There's not so much arguing going on. And when they do argue, they argue the points instead of blaming each other for their points of view. Like the family I stayed with, they were Muslim, but they had all 5 sects of their Muslim belief, and then one daughter was Catholic, and then the synagogue was like 2 blocks down the road. So it was a super tolerant country, and everybody belonged.
Yeah.
And many children in the family, because you can have 4 wives, and from that you might have a lot of kids. So a lot of time is spent preparing food.
Right.
So that's an activity you do all day long.
Yeah.
For me, as a chef, that's great. So I just, look at this. We're going to make 8 gallons of this today because we're going to eat 8 gallons of it today. So that was amazing to see how they would do it. So, and then just beautiful people. It was just, I think that what I'm having a hard time with here is our fierce independence gives a lot of room for negligence and denial, and there it's just like it would be an embarrassment if somebody in the family were an addict or poor or not taken care of. They all pull together and lift them up.
Yeah.
So it's a totally different attitude.
Yeah.
It's more of a preference over humanity than possessions.
Yeah. Strange concept, huh?
What?
And it's funny. Like even the folks that I know that really, because I mean, the majority of the folks I know personally, value people more than possessions, However, it's the backdrop is still so different, I mean, as far as like, that was really cool to hear about, they'd be embarrassed to have somebody sleeping on the street and they let them sleep on their porch and feed them. Like,
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's inspiring,
Yeah. And it's a bit different. I mean, the families stay together as a unit, like you can have 2 or 3, 4 generations in one home.
Yeah.
Also, because building code is really different. They're not they're not hyper regulated. The house I stayed in was a 3-story cinder block home, And when I came back the next year, a new room had been added on. I got to see pictures. They would go out in the front yard and make cinder blocks out of the dirt in the front yard.
Yeah.
And just put another room up,
Yeah.
with of course with rebar and all that stuff, but it's very basic. And then they put the mud coat on it and stuff, and they say, you got another 16 by 20 foot room added to your house in a weekend.
Yeah.
So, and here everything's a major investment. Even tiny homes, look at tiny homes. Here's a tiny home for $120,000. It's like it's $120. It's $1,000 a square foot.
Yeah. 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 The things like that. I mean, just the economics of that. It does make it a lot harder. It's hard to. Most places, if you have a little shop or a restaurant or whatever, the people are living upstairs or behind it, and places you're legally not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Again, just the idea of making bricks out of your front yard.
Right.
Whoa. It's just, no. Those aren't government approved bricks. I mean, you don't realize how regulated you are until you leave this place.
Yeah.
And just like everything we do,
Yeah.
Like, am I projecting the approved government slouch right now?
Right. It's silly.
So.
What you said you're going to be starting a podcast yourself, or you have started one?
Well, I'm right now. The past 4 years, I left Asheville back in 2016, and I started a program. I did it at least a few times. Started a thing called Mortar and Pestle, which is a food and language documentary. And I was recording mostly seniors' stories about growing up and who cooked and what they cooked and what they grew and what stores were like back then, or the places they visited, or visitors, or church functions. It's always huge, weddings and holidays and stuff like that. And a lot of great stories, came to mind, and I have recorded. And then from that, I spoke with a couple people there in the area that I wanted to do a podcast about a comprehensive podcast about food. It's called Food Happens. I'm formatting it now. And I was a caregiver for about 3.5 years up in DC. And I was listening to WAMU. And they had a bunch of radio shows on. And one was Science Friday. And then, which is a great look at science. All kinds. It's like a magazine, 2 hours. And then another one was Diane Rehm, and she did interviews. And she had 2 hours. It was a call-in show. But she talked about national and local events and about policies and stuff. And she really did great interviews, And I thought the idea of putting those two ideas together give a open forum to how we try to attack the size and scale and scope of food in our entire lives, basically. Everything from recipes and how-tos to how does it get there, and transportation and science and psychology and all those things, and I'm trying to when I return to the area, I'm going to flesh it out and get it going. I left because I had spinal stenosis.
Oh, wow.
And I got C3 through T1, severe. And I think my headphones are digging back. And it's severe in a C3, 4, and 5, and my arms are starting to fail, and so I'm trying to figure out what to do with the acumen of my years, and something I can provide for my community, and kind of fashion that into a new career at 55, because I'm not really hireable. Like yesterday, I was at a store. I couldn't open the bathroom door.
Oh man!
I had to wait for somebody to come to the door and open it up, and I had to ask somebody to pull apart, doggy bags. I couldn't rip them apart, or open up a sandwich bag. So I'm losing a lot of my strength in my arms when I get it towards, like right about here. It stops this area. Once you get past this point, it's kind of pointless.
I had no idea, man. I didn't realize you were going through that.
Yeah, so that's why I'm hunched over, it's whoops, you know, sitting up straight starts burning after a short while. So, and so that's part of it. And they have two surgeons that said, look, it's at a very difficult place, and it's arthritis and it's trauma induced, and it would be a short-lived fix, and you'd spend most of it recovering, and then arthritis would just grow back into the fix if the scar tissue didn't do it first, or both of them didn't do it. So,
Gotcha.
so I'm trying to do alternative things. I'm taking supplements, massage. I got a friend that does cupping on me, which helps a lot.
Oh,
and, yeah, because it actually pulls the pressure off the spine.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking 6 to 9 grams of turmeric curcumin, omega-3s, oswellia, all those things constantly, and kratom.
Yeah.
Kratom works great, and we finally got medical marijuana here, but it's a process, and it'll take months, and it's expensive. So, once you get
the kratom helps for the pain or calms the nervous system. Yeah.
Yep. Also, skullcap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So all those things combined together keeps my pain level to a dull soreness.
Yeah.
And sometimes I run short. If I go like a 3 or 4 week gap, it comes right back to original crunchy, spiky, sharp burning. So I know that it's working, and I know I don't have to take opioids anymore because I can keep this combination going. And it's just it works on many different levels, and also just eating the right foods. So.
Wow. Well, yeah, man. The herbs you're taking sound. I mean, that's the best I know, really.
Yeah.
Oswellia and the turmeric, and the osteoarthritis won't keep growing without inflammation.
Yeah.
So it's the best you can do to keep the inflammation gone.
Yeah, and also back to watching my testosterone-laden choices, not powering through it.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not gonna bullhead my arthritis into submission. I'm just gonna create more arthritis.
Yeah.
So instead of it gets to the point, it's like, okay, I know I can do it. No, well, you can do it, but you're gonna suffer. And it's gonna make things worse. So, and I'm gonna have it's autoimmune. So, and I got a friend up in Canada. He went and got his genes tested. He had his back kept on having disc problems, and they would blow out. He went and did the 23andMe thing, right? And he found out that his body didn't have the correct DNA to process a certain vitamin that was important for that thing not to happen.
Oh, wow.
And now he just takes supplements of that vitamin, and his back's been fine for years now.
Wow.
He didn't realize he couldn't process that vitamin, though.
It's amazing how far they've come with that stuff.
Yeah. And I keep hearing matterings of that over and over again. Like, oh, wait, that important part of DNA didn't work, so let's work around it. But the regular blood test we have won't reveal that.
Right. No. Yeah, that's next level.
Yeah, but you can do it now, and I'm not too sure why people are apprehensive about that. But health is such a personal thing, and there's also the melees of accidents and malpractice and all those things, and it's like it's a risk either way. But if you have years ahead of you, I think it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
So go fix yourself. Listen to your body.
Yeah. Learn. You gotta learn to listen to it. It's a big part.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing you got all. I mean, I'm glad it's propelling you to do some of these other projects because you got a lot of experience and them and.
Yeah, I mean, this is I'm trying to look for the silver lining, and not to be cliche, but you got to make the best of it. I'm still seeing a therapist, and there's a lot of days I make it to 1 o'clock and I got to lay in bed.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's been going on for almost 4 years now. And that gets daunting too. And I'll be the first to admit there's been about 3 or 4 times I'm just like, okay, here I am in this little room in the middle of this little podunk town in the middle of nowhere doing nothing. And I don't think anybody's really going to miss me. So what's the point of going on, you know?
Yeah.
And you get really close to that. It's like, wow, you know, I put a couple requests on Facebook, you know, a couple times, like, sure, it'd be nice to have a phone call this month. And I get a phone call. Everybody texts, you know, I do this all day,
Right.
you know, but I miss what we're doing here. At least I can see each other, and there's a lot to be said for body language and inflection.
Right.
You know, there's a lot you can say a lot in just how you say things, but
Yeah.
you know, so much of my day is like short little one-liners, and then what do you mean by that? Or what is that? And you just go, it's like, you know, we could have had a conversation instead of texting back and forth half an hour trying to be clear with what each other had written, because some things are so nuanced, and, you know,
Oh, yeah.
they deserve some inflection, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's great to be able to have FaceTime.
it really is. So, you know, I'm not totally isolated. I you know, I go to the coffee shop downtown. I take the boys to the park for a walk, you know, and I'm trying to get, you know, what I can as far as exercise goes in, and trying to be forward moving in my own health care. And I just got disability set in. So I have all my insurances and stuff. I can go back, and I need to go see the cardiologist and go see the gastroenterologist. You know, it's time for another colonoscopy.
Fun.
Yeah. Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
So, I'm thinking about ordering one of those. They got these little, what do they call them? These little optic fiber endoscopes you can put on your phone.
Seriously?
Yeah, so you can look down pipes and stuff, or look inside your car, or look inside your, you know,
Gotcha.
see your pistons and stuff. I'm thinking about going to the GI and say, can I just do my own and, you know, not pay you $12,000?
Right.
I'll send you the files. You tell me what you see. So
You probably shouldn't reuse those though.
No, I mean, they're like $3 a piece, you know. So,
yeah. A mobile colonoscopy business. That's $3, 12 grand. There's a profit margin in there.
I know.
You can skim off that.
I can open up down in the mall and colonoscopies and stuff.
That's great.
Oh man.
What happened to all those recordings? So you were saying you were doing the recordings for like an audio library of old timey food and recipes.
Well, it's just mostly the language of, you know, I you know, going back to Africa, I have a friend. She's been there. She's a linguist, and she kind of inspired me to do this because I was noticing there, like a dish would be, let's say squash, you know, and it would be called squash. Dishes aren't given like, you know, fun names like we have here, but that's the only thing that would be called squash is that one dish. So, you know, it'd be like, you know, red squash comes from that region, identifies that group. You know, like a drum beat or a fabric pattern identifies the group.
Right.
So, and that dish using that ingredient, because that's probably one of the few places that thing grows, is also identity. So, and I was kind of noticing through just listening to stories, and like I interviewed this lady, Mrs. Green in Durham. She's 95, 94. And her family goes back 5 generations in North Carolina. And I asked her, well, tell me, how do you make your collards? So she said, well, pull out your cast iron skillet, throw in a handful of onions and a handful of greasy links, and then put your chopped up collards on it and a little bit of water, and let it cook down for about 3 hours. I'm just like, wow. I've always had collards that have been cooked down. It's like, God, they're really overcooking these things, you know. Greens should be like, you know, 90 seconds or 2 minutes, you know. And then I realized the greasy links, it's your belly fat. There's like a little rind on just before it gets out to the skin. It's meat, you know. And they cut it out and they cut in little strips. And those are the greasy links. And that's kind of like brisket meat. So I realized they weren't overcooking the collard greens. They were braising the greasy links into softness, like corned beef. And then over time, I know just from raising food like that, there's an exchange of flavors between the fat into the collards and the chlorophyll into the meat. And then now it becomes the pot liquor, which is another flavor altogether. So that taught me several different things about why that dish exists as it does. And then I got the word greasy link out of it, which is a lot.
Sounds really good.
It is. And I was doing this project at the Baker Block Museum in a little rural town here for a while. I had one guy came in telling me a very similar story, except his mom would make corn pone patties, like biscuits.
Mm.
And once that was cooked down to where the liquor was there and everything, she would take the patties and stick them directly on top of the collards, cover it, steam it up like steam buns, and then finish it in the oven. And then turn the oven off. When it cooled down, it would absorb everything back up and it's collards stuck to the bottom, and it's just a gravy-filled corn pone patty. And I'm just like, God.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. I was like, damn, tell that story again, man.
Yeah, I can taste it as you're describing it. I'm salivating. Oh.
I know. I was like, that's what it's like. Why didn't I think about that 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a great idea. So I want to do that with like everything now. So.
Just cook it down for 3 hours, get the flavors to blend.
Yeah.
And then steam something yummy on top.
Yeah. And, but that's a great use of food, and like I've been so many places that I've cooked at people's homes. Okay, we spent like $10 feeding 6 people. So.
Yeah, I need to get better at that. I spend a lot more than that feeding 6 people.
Get to know your beans,
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I need to get back. I used to cook a lot of beans. I was vegetarian for 15 years.
Wow.
Which taught me a lot about cooking.
Yeah.
But a lot of beans these days. I don't react as well to beans as I used to, but it partly is how they're cooked, and I don't always take the time to cook them myself.
Yeah.
Or I haven't been doing that recently, but like canned beans can mess me up.
Yeah. Wow. The Instapot works great, man.
Yeah.
As a chef, I would highly advise getting one of those things.
That's like a specific kind of. It's not just a.
It's a pressure cooker that has a bunch of variables you can add to it, and also you can brown stuff inside. It has a heating pad or a heating option in the bottom. You can brown stuff in, and then you can have a lot of different pressures and cook at. And I made some of the best rice and some of the best. I made a great Colombian chicken dish, like 15 minutes.
Nice.
What normally would take an hour and a half to make.
15 minutes, you get to like fall off the bone.
Yeah.
Dang.
That's what I'm saying. Those things used to wait all day for. It's like,
yeah,
I can have it by the time it's setting the table.
How idiot proof is it? I'm not going to blow my house up or.
No. It's all computer driven, and it has all these different sensors and stuff on it, and double or redundant release valve and stuff on it, which is helpful. It's not like the old time you put the thing on top of the stove and walked away, and half your roof is gone when you come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I would highly advise getting Instapot or something similar to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, starting to get on a little bit. Anything you wanna talk about before we wrap it up soon?
Oh God, that's a big question.
Well, I'm excited about this project that you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think it seems perfect for what's going on with you.
Well, I hope to be moving back to the area. I'm at a point where I'm kind of waiting for things to happen with my family, and I qualified for housing, but I can only have one dog, and Murphy's 18, so I'm kind of waiting for him to pass on.
Gotcha.
Which he doesn't seem to be close to at all.
No.
So, like, wow, you're still running around and trying to mount other dogs and you're 18. So,
Hey,
yeah,
you
which is
got it. You
great.
got it.
Oh, hold on. Did I lose you? Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Um, so, and I got some friends up in Madison that I talked to before about this and about engineering it and trying to make a fun show out of it. And I got all the time in the world right now to go out and do the interviews and really take part in the process of making it. And, I have a preliminary website called foodhappens.org.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you want to go there and check it out and see a little bit of what has transpired and just the idea of how it's going to happen, how one feeds the other. So back to Mrs.
Nice.
Green, so we take some of it was inspired. I used to work at a radio station here in town, a little country western station called WAAZ-FM. It's been around since 1954, and a country music station, the Good Country, and they have every promotional album of every country artist since then on their walls. It's a museum.
Uh-huh.
It's not an actual museum, but it looks like one. But we used to have the farm report in the morning. It's a really rural area, and they were talking about what's coming in, what's going out with prices and stuff like that, and what to expect, and kind of where to put your investments and money and stuff like that. And that's kind of inspired this podcast to come in. Is like I would like to speak to farmers about how they're receiving their local investments, and also giving the local people an opportunity to hear from farmers in an open forum, how much their support is helping them and what they're doing, so they get some sense of where the investment's going, other than just great vegetables, And so I want to have that open forum available for that. That's part of it. And
I like that.
The thing with the Baker Block Museum, they have a genealogy department, and all these stories we're collecting goes in the genealogy department as a way of preserving how the story is told in our dictionary, our language, and lexicon we have today, and how we actually say things. And I think I'm afraid of a lot of our wonderful Southern vernacular, the cadence of how we speak. It's going to be lost to texting everything.
Yeah.
And I want to preserve it. We have a beautiful, colorful way of expressing ourselves here. And that's part of it. And we all eat food, and we all enjoy the identity of, what kind of food represents our area, So we have that here in America in some degrees. And we have, New Orleans has what? Gumbo. San Francisco has sourdough. Chicago has pizza, New Jersey has Taylor ham rolls, Philadelphia cheesesteaks. And, every area has a little thing, Austin, Texas has brisket and tacos, So all these things are points of identity that helps define culture as it is. And I don't want culture to get so homogenized that that's no longer a thing anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with food, because it's still one of the big four, You got to have food. So pay attention to it, bring it up to the front and have food be a very important part of your day, at least one day a week. Make your own food, eat from it through the week, and try to make it a point you're starting to make more and more of your food. That way you have better command over the health of your body, and not give up so much trust to complete strangers of how that stuff's being prepared or preserved or grown or any of that stuff. Once you start cooking, you get a better sense of, oh yeah, this is how that works,
Yeah.
And because this is the one thing that your entire life depends upon. All your choices of your success depends on your food. That's a forgotten connection.
Yeah.
And if you need to bring some sort of fear or some sort of alarm to it, remember that when you go to a restaurant or to, I don't want to say restaurants, when you outsource the responsibility of cooking your own food, remember you're taking that item and putting it inside your own mouth. So there's a lot of trust or neglect that's happening there.
Yeah.
But once you make it, you see the importance of the sanitation, the importance of the preparation, and the importance of storage, and how it affects your entire body. So
It You're so right, man. It's funny because I had to kind of I got that reinforced because for a while there, like I said, I grew up with being exposed to good food. My mom gave me really good nutrition growing up. We had an understanding of that.
Mm-hmm.
I had an interest in that, getting into alternative medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and then and I studied for a bit. But then as I just kept collecting kids and bills that came with them, and
Yeah.
I just started getting so overwhelmed by having to cook and be responsible for the nutrition for everybody. I started getting all the cheap frozen stuff, from the discount stores, and
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I could feed everybody, get full. And it didn't take long before we were all weak and crabby and our brains didn't work right. And it was like all of us were going through it. And it was like, okay, the common denominator is I've been skimping on nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it really made me kind of get my ass got back in gear a little bit. And
Yeah.
I got a lot more to grow, but at least it's like, all right, at least I can confidently say I give them good nutrition now, where
Oh, good.
behind all the frozen processed stuff, it was just so easy, and it frankly tastes better than I felt like putting the effort into making, and
Yeah. Yep.
it seems easy, and it was just fucking us up. Like,
Yep. Yep. You can't live on salt and fat alone.
no.
Really tasty salt and fat.
We can do it until it stops working.
Yeah. Yeah. So, why can't I poop, Dad? Well,
No, it's so important, and then even the issues of food security, and like you're saying, like, I think what you were talking about with interviewing farmers and I think that'd be very well received, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
In a lot of places, I think that's a connection that a lot of people desire to be stronger,
Yeah. It's very, very important to know. The more you know, the better choices you can make,
Yeah.
So that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, all right, my friend.
All right. Wisdom and Folly, huh?
Wisdom and Folly.
Oh, cool. I'm going to check it out tonight.
Check it out.
All right. Cool.
All right. Well, yeah. We're still recording.
Okay, cool. And you're listening to Wisdom and Folly.
Sweet.
And we will be right back with Wisdom and Folly.